Hi there, and welcome to the Skylight Books author reading series. If you'd like to learn more about us and our many upcoming author events, please visit skylightbooks.com, where you can browse our inventory, buy books, and join our Friends with Benefits Club. You can also follow us on Twitter, Tumblr, and Facebook. To speak to a real live bookseller like me, please call 323-660-1175. Thanks for your support, and enjoy.
We're very happy to have Julie Buxbaum here. I know she's so prolific as a writer. I just assumed that she'd been at Skylight before, and she let me know that this is her very first time at the store, which was really shocking to me. So let's make sure we give her a wonderful Skylight welcome. Yay! Yay! Julie? Oh, please come on down. I just want to say, this is Julie. If you don't know, she is the author of the YA novel What to Say Next, as well as the New York Times bestseller Tell Me Three Things, her debut young adult novel. And joining her will be Kayla Cagan, a novelist and playwright. She received her BFA in theater from Stephen F. Austin State University. She lives here with her husband and dog in Los Angeles. Please welcome Julie and Kayla.
We should have done that. I know. Hi, everyone. Hi, standing room only at Skylight Books. Wow. You all look beautiful, just like last night when you were all at the Met Gala. You looked wonderful. I like your outfits. So we're super excited to be here with Julie, or at least I am. I assume most of you here are super fans of her previous work and or just her, because she's awesome. And if you're not yet, by the time you leave here, you'll own everything that she writes, which is a lot. So we're here to celebrate her new book, Hope and Other Punchlines. I read it. I have so many feelings about the book, and they're all positive. I love them.
There was a moment of panic, I think.
I love dropping like a 1-star on Goodreads. No, I love it. I love it so much. But before I start getting into my questions, because they are many, I'd love to hear you, for everyone else, give a summary of the book.
Sure, but before I do that, I just want to thank everybody so much for coming. I always get so nervous about the hometown launch. It's like my biggest, scariest thing. And I think it might be because, like, when you're a debut, everyone's super excited. This is my 5th book. And so I feel like when I send out the invite, everyone's like, oh, not again. Like, I'm selling Tupperware, and I'm inviting you to my Tupperware party again. So thank you. And to see all your, thank you. What was the question? Oh, describe the book.
Yeah,
okay.
That's it. That's all you have to do.
We're starting easy, and I already got off track. Okay. Hope and Other Punchlines is the story of Abbi Hope Goldstein, who is famous for being in an iconic photograph on her first birthday on 9/11. She is being rescued from the World Trade Center. She's in her daycare center, and she is wearing a birthday hat and carrying a birthday balloon, and this photo goes viral. And she is famous for the entirety of her high school, or through her childhood through high school, for being in this photograph. She's known as Baby Hope. As she starts to feel the legacy of that day catching up with her, she decides she wants one last summer of anonymity. And so she goes to work at a day camp called Knight's Day Camp, 2 towns away. And she's hoping no one notices her or knows she's Baby Hope. But of course, on her first day, she meets a boy named Noah, who immediately recognizes her. And he convinces her, and when I say convinces, I really mean blackmails her, into going on a journey where the 2 of them interview all the remaining survivors in that photo. And he has his own reasons for doing so. And the book is the story of the legacies of loss, about lifelong friendship, about what happens when the world splits into a before and after, and what happens when we start asking questions when we're not sure we're ready for the answers.
That's it. That's all it is. I mean, it's so good. It's so big, y'all. Sorry, I'm going to put the phone down. So I want to get into, we're in 2019. 9/11, 18 years ago. When did you start getting this idea that either this was going to be a subplot or something you really wanted to focus on?
So I think I started writing the book probably about 3 years ago, maybe 4. But if you had told me 5 years ago that I would even dare touch 9/11, I wouldn't have believed you. It felt like something that was way too big, too loaded, too hard, just too wrong for me to even address. And then one day I was on Twitter, as one is when they're a writer and want to waste time. And I saw a tweet from a teenager who basically was complaining about having to learn about 9/11 every year on the anniversary. And this is from a teenager I generally admire. I actually love her feed. And when I saw it, I burst into tears because it occurred to me that most of my readers are people who were either babies during 9/11 or hadn't been born yet, and they didn't get it. And how could they? They weren't there, right?
Right.
They didn't see the world split.
Yeah.
And it felt suddenly really necessary to find a way to tell this story that was digestible for the next generation in a way that they can metabolize, which is why I said it 15 years later.
Excuse me. Yeah, and it made sense to me that, I mean, you've been writing a young adult and you're going into the story with that lens. But you also, there are quite a few adult characters in this book that are really well defined and beautiful and have either directly experienced 9/11 by being a survivor or kind of more further out in the circle. And I was wondering, did you ever kind of go back and forth of like, is this an adult book or is this a young adult book? Is this like, because I think you write so gracefully between the two and so beautifully. It really does feel like a crossover book. Like, oh, I'm an older reader who went through 9/11. I loved it for what you gave me. But for the younger people, like you knew that was the place to go?
I always knew it was going to be a YA, but I used to write adult books, which I feel like lots of people don't know. But before Tell Me Three Things, I had two adult books, one called The Opposite of Love and one called After You. And so I do have a crossover readership. And the truth of the matter is when I started writing YA, I didn't write my books any differently than I wrote my adult stuff. It's the same, I was about to use the S word, but my kids are in the front row. It's the same stuff.
Yeah. It's a great S word.
It is the same stuff. I use fewer S words in it. That's probably the only difference. And it's about teenagers. But, you know, teenagers have full, rich lives. And I also think teenage readers are super, super sophisticated. And so it never made sense to me to write down to them in any way.
Right. Especially with something that heavy. Because most teenagers, whether it's 9/11 or something else, probably know about loss or grief if they haven't experienced it yet. They might have seen it or might have not experienced it directly. They might have seen it online or in a news story or something like that.
Sorry, I don't mean to cut you off. In some ways, I think it's almost harder sometimes to write YA versus adult, only because I think we underestimate the complexity of teen feelings. And when you're rendering them on the page, you want to make sure you show that complexity and not make them two-dimensional.
Right.
In a way that we don't expect that multidimensional thing from teenagers, which is unfortunate. I don't know why anything with girls and teenagers, but for some reason we devalue, which is a whole other discussion that we're not going to have here tonight.
Which that makes me want to jump to another question, but I'll wait for that one. Okay, so, and I think there is something with the teenage feelings of like, we always say like, well, teenagers get to feel it on all levels right away, where adults might tactfully try to cipher through what they're feeling and have complex emotions, and then the novel's 800 pages long. But I think you really find a level of doing that super well with both Abbi and Noah. Noah, I'm going to jump into one of your characters for a minute. He's a young guy and he's a comedian and he's super funny and he's super great on one level. And then you just keep digging in and digging in and digging in. And we find out that just like all of us have maybe coping tools to get through things, you've given this to Noah. Was comedy something, when you started writing him, did you kind of go into it going, this kid wants to be a comedian? Or this kid, did you know that was his passion?
Yes. I mean, I knew from page one. There's a couple of reasons. One is in my last novel, What to Say Next, the main character was fascinated with quantum physics. Which meant I had to do a lot of research into quantum physics. And this time I was like, screw that. I am going to do something fun and something I'm interested in, and I'm interested in comedy. I'm a little bit of a comedy nerd. Yeah. So that was one of the reasons. But also this book, because I was going to, touch on 9/11, I wanted, it's going to sound weird, but I really, one of the most challenging part of this book was finding the tone. Because I really wanted to write a funny book, and Noah gave me that way through. And he uses comedy not only to mask his pain, but to sort of muddle his way through. And that's my way. I mean, I am at my funniest when I'm at my lowest.
Aren't we all?
Yeah.
I think that's LA. I also love, I'm going to ask the question that I get super annoyed with when I see male authors ask, like, how did you know how to write women? How did you know how to write girls? So I want to ask you, Noah has a best friend named Jack. I love their friendship. They remind me of a lot of men and their friends that I know. Did you have fun writing Noah and Jack? Because I did find levity and like joy when they would bounce around, and Jack would call him out on stuff and keep him honest.
Yes, I love the two of them. I thought it was really important to show true male friendship. I feel like we see a lot of female friendship in books. Are we boring you, Luki?
He's like, cookie time.
Anyhow, sorry, I totally got distracted, little man. Yeah, I feel like we don't see boy friendships so much. I wanted to show two boys who truly, truly love each other. One's stray and one is gay, and it doesn't matter. And they are lifelong partners in their own way.
Yeah.
And they're goofy and funny, and they were just a joy.
They're super joyful, and just with the 2019 lens, there's nothing like toxic about their friendship, and they don't aim low. You know, they really support each other and the other friends who come into their lives and potential mates and things like that, which I won't give away.
They're also huge dorks. And
they're
huge
the
weirdos,
best dorks,
which is really fun.
Yeah. Also, was that video game based on a real game? Because I'm not a gamer. I don't know.
You know what's so funny? I know nothing about video games.
Okay.
And I actually had to watch like YouTube videos about what video games look like now because I didn't know, and I had to watch these videos. There are these videos of people playing video games.
Oh, yeah.
Filming themselves playing video games. It's really
Yeah.
meta and really bizarre.
Yeah.
And millions of people watch them.
And now you watch
And
them.
now I watch them. It was really we didn't go too far into video games because I found it really boring.
I was kind of happy you didn't for me, but I was like, well, maybe it's something I can relate to with Atari. Like, I was like, or Nintendo, but I was like, I don't know what the game is.
Yeah.
But the game really worked. So, talking about teenagers, talking about 9/11, you grew up in the New Jersey and New York area, yeah? And were you there during 9/11, or were you out here?
I was in Boston.
Boston.
I was in law school at the time, and my husband had just graduated and was about to start a job in New York.
Good.
And he was in London at the time, just before moving, and he called me to tell me what had happened. He woke me up. And we had a big debate after for the following couple of weeks about whether he should go and take the job, and he did. And we've just recently discussed about how he was working downtown immediately after 9/11. And we don't talk enough about the polluted air.
No. Which is a part of the book that I don't want to give away a whole lot, but there is an addressing of a subject that I also think is important for young people to know about, because I think a lot of people think it was just emotional scars, or it was just people who are sad that day because they saw something awful.
Or geopolitical scars.
And so Julie does write and include in the book about people who are dealing with real physical results that change their lives or in their lives because of 9/11 years after it's happened, and it's woven beautifully in there. You kind of, I was taken by surprise a couple of times, although maybe I just ruined the surprise for you. I didn't say who.
I just want to add one thing. There was an intentionality there. There's Republicans in Congress who are trying to block refunding
Yeah.
medical,
the whole thing.
medical programs for survivors, and they literally are voting against it. And so I felt it was super important to sort of introduce this issue that still exists to the next generation.
And insurance companies are denying coverage for former firefighters and police officers. Yeah, it's bad. It's bad
really
news.
bad. And I think the number of people who have died since from 9/11 related illnesses is about the same number of people who died on the day now. We're
It's
just
up in the
about there if we're not
thousands.
there yet.
Just real cheerful.
Yeah, sorry.
No, it's okay. We're gonna jump to summer camp.
Okay, let's go.
Who wants to go? September 11th was September, and now we're into summer camp. So a big chunk of this book does happen at a summer camp, and it's a really fun with like hot lifeguards and things like that. And it is called if I'm
I
wrong.
totally forgot about the hot life.
I didn't. What do you think? I was like, oh, I have to go to bed and read now. I mean, like it's really fun and kind of. Hot lifeguard books. They're good. Did you, I think the camp is the happiest place in New Jersey or the happiest place in the world?
I think she's looking for the happiest place in New Jersey.
The happiest place in New Jersey, which also right there should be a bumper sticker, just like without explanation. So did you go to a camp like that or?
Yes, so I went to Night Stay Camp. My grandfather owned a camp from 1950 to 1986 called Night Stay Camp, and it was in New Jersey. and it was the happiest place in New Jersey. And I really, really wanted to sort of resurrect it. There's a character named Uncle Maurice. My grandfather went by Uncle Maurice to the kids at camp, which in retrospect is a little creepy. And he had this awesome 70s stash. So I gave Uncle Maurice that 70s stash, just sort of to tip my hat towards him. And then I had promo hats made, which I will give away one later for Night Stay Camp, because it made me I miss it. It was a really wonderful place, a magical place.
And it's no longer there.
It's no longer there. They sold it, and it's been developed into houses or something really not fun.
Got it. Were you a camp counselor there as well, or just?
No, they sold it before I was old enough to be a camp counselor. Okay. But I went there, I think, until 1980s. We're not going to do the math on how old I am.
Yeah, sure, no.
We're just going to.
It's gone. That's what matters.
On,
yeah. For sure, we're not going there. What I did want to ask you about more, also New Jersey and your family. There's a wonderful character in your book, that Abby's grandmother, and we love a good grandmother in this fam. We love the joy that she brings. Can you talk? Did your grandmother influence? I know that she's you dedicated the book to her as well.
So the grandma character is not in any way based on my grandmother, but the existence of an important grandmother is. Mm-hmm. So my grandma was super, super important to me. I loved her dearly. She was a huge part of my life growing up. She did start to have dementia towards the end, and I have had dementia grandparents in a few books now, which I'm just noticing right now, which clearly I should make a note and talk to a therapist about. And I think one of the reasons why I do that, especially with this book is a lot about memory and the legacies of memory and what we leave behind and what happens when our own memory deteriorates. I mean, Abbi is a symbol of 9/11. She is a memory for people. She is this touchstone which allows people to remember what happened. And so I wanted to give her this grandmother who has her own, so her grandmother has Alzheimer's and is losing her memory. And I wanted to sort of give that contrast and that relationship. And also I just wanted a great, really fun grandma. And she's awesome.
She's such a fun grandma. We should all have a grandma like that. Mm-hmm. One of the things when you talk about memory, and one of the things that's not only throughout your book, but you've even mentioned it, the before and afters of events. And you have this great line that I had to write down because I knew I would slaughter it if I didn't. I know better than anyone that you can't draw a straight line from the who you once were to the who you are now. And I read that, and I had to put the book down because I was jealous because it was such a good line. And then I thought writing this book had to have a before and after for you, and I wanted to know, as you were writing it, you might have been going through stuff, or you might have been exhausted by it. I don't know, but before you went into this, what were you thinking, and after, what did you learn? What did you discover?
That's a really good question. This was by far the hardest book I've ever written. And even as we're talking about it now, I'm understanding why it's so hard, because on one hand, I'm like, summer camp, 9/11. It just doesn't seem to work together.
But it
and
does.
I recognize it, but it does, hopefully.
Yeah,
it does. There was two things that made it really hard. One was I'm writing to two totally different audiences. I'm writing to adults who lived through this, and I wanted to honor that. And I'm writing to kids who know nothing about this. And to have the pitch work to both ears was really, really difficult. So that was the first thing. And then the second thing, and I don't even know if I'm answering your question or just answering the question I want to be asked. I don't know. That could be happening right now.
No, you're doing it. You're there.
The second part, I totally forgot my thought. What are we talking about?
Well, we were talking about before, which you just did, so kind of into after.
Oh, the second, why it was hard, yes.
Yeah.
So tonally combined, I really wanted to make people laugh. One of Noah's goals in life is to find the perfect 9/11 joke. And the reason why he wants that is he wants to defang the experience for himself. He feels like if he could find the joke, he'll be able to actually look at it face on. Mm-hmm. And so to strike that summer camp 9/11 balance, which when I talk about it sounds bizarre, was the true challenge of this book. And so to answer, I think your question was, what did I learn from it? Mm-hmm. I learned don't do that, because
I love it.
Because it's really hard. No, I learned that if you keep going, you'll get there. So I spent a year on this book thinking it was done, and then realized it was not done, and then spent an additional year working my butt off.
Your stuff off.
I was working my stuff off to get it right, and I feel like I finally landed there. And I feel like I'm a
It
better
really
writer
lands.
for it.
Yeah.
But it's also a really scary book to put out in the world. I mean, all books are scary to put out in the world, but this one feels particularly scary. But I feel like I say that every single time, so who knows?
Talk to us in your next 5 books. You'll
Yeah,
say the
yes,
same thing. I think.
Exactly. Which I should also talk to a therapist about.
That's a good therapist, I think. One thing I wanted to ask you before I get there, or one of the things you also address with the before and after, you do it in a really delicate way because not everything is about, like, before there were buildings, now there are not. You do these in very nuanced friendships and relationships, and about people who stay together and who don't, and friends who leave and who don't, and who pulls closer and who pulls apart. And I was wondering if you can kind of address and talk on, like, how you found that fine line of, like, why would somebody lose their friend over something like a tragedy? Like, why would a friend pull away, or why would they go towards it? Because I think, like, Noah and Jack, as opposed to Abby and Kat, are just totally different examples of how people react.
So Abby in the book has a best friend who she's sort of fallen away from. And something that was super important to me is that the book would work even if you took out 9/11. I wanted it not to necessarily, I mean, it's specific to 9/11, but I also wanted this whole other YA novel within a YA novel where she's a teenager going through normal life. You know, teenagers face grief and loss all the time that maybe isn't 9/11 shaped, but it's still grief and loss. And so I wanted to tell that story in isolation. Not in isolation, but that could stand in isolation if it needed to. And I think often in high school we lose our friends. Sometimes we make really close friends who move us through a period of time, and then we grow apart. Abby and Kat have totally different interests when they get to high school, and they go their separate ways. And there's not even something they can point to say, hey, this is why things fell apart, which was actually really tricky to write because I feel like you want a reader to feel satisfied and understand that. And how to articulate that sometimes we just grow in different directions was tricky material. For a moment, I had a thing, like a big falling out, and it just didn't feel natural or real.
I feel like an editor would give you that note of being like, you need to, like, make sure they had a fist fight or whatever. And you're like, no, they didn't have a fist fight. They just don't hang out anymore. Yeah. Because I love that. Oh, it's total hurt because it's almost like you see that person and you want to be drawn to them again, and maybe something stops you. Or I just felt it so much with Abby. You had the push and pull of, like, they had this friendship. It was before. It's gone, or it's dissolved. And it's really nice, and it's almost sneaky how smooth it is, and I appreciate it.
I gave Abby sort of the feeling that she wishes there was something that she could point to be like, this is why we hate each other now, and there isn't.
There's not.
But it was also practical because I wanted her to move towards this new friend group, and so she needed to grow and find new friends, and that was part of the reason why she doesn't have Kat anymore.
Yeah.
That was just 100%
and it's a good catalyst.
like, dirty plot.
Yeah, no, it works though. So in case there are any writers out here who are maybe working through an emotionally tough book right now that they're writing, or something you're creating, it doesn't have to be writing, although that's what we're talking about. Do you have any suggestions or advice when you're like, you're dealing with maybe a bigger emotional impact than you're ready to address, or like how to get through it, or besides just keep writing, which might be it?
Yeah, I mean, there was a time, gazillion drafts in, and maybe a year into the book, where at one point I thought it was over and that I was going to have to throw it away, which I've done before to whole novels. And I was devastated because I saw what it could be. And when you know this feeling of like you have the vision in your mind of what the novel can be, but it's not that.
Yeah.
And you don't know how to get it from here to there. And you have no idea how to cross that bridge. In my case, I knew it was broken, and I just didn't know why or how. And my editor agreed it was broken, but she didn't know how to fix it. And I gave it to a fresh reader. I gave it to my agent, who is a genius, and she read it, and she was like, oh, I think the problem might be this. And it wasn't even a huge plot problem. It was a perspective problem.
Okay.
It was like a slight voice issue, where it was a little too wah-wah, and it needed to be a little bit more uplifting.
Wah-wah. Yeah.
Wah-wah.
Yeah. Wah-wah. Wah-wah.
I feel like we should just make sounds at each other for the rest of the
I'm
time.
here all night.
That's sort of where my brain is at right now. And that unlocked it for me. As soon as she said that, I was like, oh, I see why this is not the joyous novel I want it to be, my joyous novel about 9/11. Then I really crap, I need to figure out how to talk about this book.
No, it's great. You're doing great. We are your guinea pigs and your fans.
Yeah,
and
thanks.
your agent's
It's a
great.
safe audience, guys. Safe
Yeah,
audience.
safe audience here. And on that, I said, like, what did you discover? What was there a favorite part you had about writing this book? Was there a part where, like, every time you were in that part of the storyline or subplot, you got like,
I mean, I
ooh.
love banter, and so Jack and Noah's banter was a lot of fun.
Yeah,
they were just so cute, and that those parts felt light. I mean, they deal with heavier things, but there's a lightness to it.
Yeah.
that was just pure joy. And
Yeah.
also, I like the kissing.
The
Kissing
kissing's
was
good.
fun to write.
Yeah. And then
My daughter's like, "Mommy."
her eyes just like narrowed together.
We're gonna have to work through this after. Sorry, guys.
Yeah. There's hugging too, if that helps. I
Yes,
don't know.
it
Less kissing. And on the flip side of that, that was your favorite part. But what was the least favorite part?
The extra year. That
Yeah.
really sucked. The moment.
He's like, no, Mom, that year wasn't that bad. It was just okay.
It's a good thing you're cute, Luca. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think it was just really. There were moments where it was really tough.
Yeah.
And I mean, there's some scenes that were really tough to write. That I was in tears while I was writing it. I wanted to make sure I wasn't manipulative, and that's always tricky whenever you're dealing with anything heavy.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
this
think if
book
you
was
had-
a little bit of a, bitch to write. I'm
Yeah.
spelling it out because I have kids here.
Stuff. That spells stuff.
Stuff.
If you had written it closer to the time period of 9/11, I think it would have come off as like
Too heavy.
too heavy and easier to write in a way because it could just be like immediate hard emotions. But you actually have given yourself, with all this time it's taken you, like a lot of grace period to kind of tell the story and gracefully get into these characters. And it is about 9/11, but it is about these characters more. And especially interesting to me is Abbi. We always want like a kind of assertive, ambitious protagonist who know what they're doing. And she's made the choice of, I want to go to the happiest place on earth for a summer so nobody knows who I am. But she has been defined by everyone all her life. And I think of almost like social media stars that aren't necessarily kind of framed by tragedy, but just out there famous because they do something. And I think about what it must be like to be in that mindset of people constantly coming up to you and saying, this is my story, and you're part of my story, but you don't know me. Can I have a hug?
Right.
And it's a really strange place that you put the 16-year-old girl in, almost like they think she's like a Jesus type or, something like that. And it's such a predicament you've given her that I don't think I've seen in other YAs, and even adult fiction. It's really rare, but I think it's a newer phenomenon, and I
feel
love
like
it.
There was two really good reasons to do that. One is I felt like it would, for my young readers, it would be relatable for someone being a meme,
Yeah.
a modern day living meme. Also, the book is at its heart the story. I started with the story and the point of it. It's the story of the stories we tell about our own lives and how we craft our own narrative. And Abbi, her entire life, hasn't crafted her own narrative.
No.
And she wants to start crafting her own narrative. Noah has told himself his own story his entire life. And what happens when the story you've told yourself your entire life turns out to be wrong?
Yeah. It's combustible.
It's combustible.
yeah.
And we use
Yeah.
stories as defense mechanisms. So at the heart, this is a story about stories.
Yeah.
Again, I need to work on how I'm going to deliver that without using the word story twice in the same sentence. It's driving me
Just
bananas.
extra.
But
Go
you
extra.
get what I'm trying to say.
Channel
I
your
think.
inner Met Gala and just like extra story.
Extra story.
camp.
I'm just going to keep
Yeah.
saying the word story.
I love it. All right, so I don't want to give anything away to super fans at all. There's also a really sly, fun reference to another of Julie's books in this, and if you've read her other work, you will read it and start laughing like I did. I was started clapping actually, and I was like, now I want to do that. Like that's a really fun thing, and I just
like
wanna,
Easter eggs. Easter eggs are fun.
It's a very fun Easter egg. And so we're going to get into some lighter stuff, but you give Jack, Noah's best friend, a great crush on a boy with a very dumb, bad tattoo. And I wanted to know if that's based on anyone in particular and or an ex-boyfriend maybe with a bad tattoo? Or
No.
Okay.
But you know how much I had to fight for that tattoo? My
Why?
editor very much, every draft would cross out the tattoo.
Why?
Like multiple drafts. And I was like, nope,
Did
we're
she not like
leaving
the
it.
tattoo itself, or was
I
it
think
like
I
a
even softened it a little bit. But Harry Styles has a tattoo that's very similar to the one in the book, which I thought would be fun for women everywhere. I was going to say teenagers, but
Yeah.
women everywhere. Everyone loves
Yeah.
Harry Styles. So
And men, everyone.
men,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah. And if you're fans of Harry, then you can probably guess what that tattoo is. And what I'm going to do now is do something I've always wanted to do in an interview. Are you ready?
I'm ready. I'm a little nervous, but I'm ready.
Okay. So James Lipton used to host this actor studio show on Bravo. But this means this is for the people older than 30, but or 40 probably. But he would do like a speed round, or who looks 21 but 40. And he had like these blue cards where he would ask questions. And I had to use a marker today. But he was like
You're so
really
cute.
snide and just real. He was very extra, way before extra. So the thing is, I wrote the questions, but they're too small, so I'm going to use my type questions. And this is like a rapid fire thing that you're going to be put on the spot, and you just have to answer as it comes to
I feel
your
like
head.
this is slightly dangerous. So
It's
in
not.
my husband calls me FDB, which is full disclosure Buxbaum.
That's
so
great.
I'm worried that you're going to ask me something and I'm...
Yeah. Perfect. So, and there is the option of pass.
Okay.
In case there is something
I like that.
Yeah.
I need
But
to use
don't
that
do
in-
it for all 10.
Can I do that in real life?
Yeah.
Like someone asks me a question that makes me uncomfortable, just say pass.
Yeah, I do it all the time.
I'm gonna work on that.
It works. Because they also look at you and then just walk off. It's very
Oh.
good. All right, so pretend I'm James Lipton, although more hair and a little less like red in the face. I'm probably red in the face. Julie.
Yes.
He always did this. I'm not going to do it, but he would be like, like, Julie.
I love you, Kayla.
I'm here to please. I'm going to start laughing. I have no poker face. Julie, what is your favorite word?
So what's so funny about this is I feel like you're giving me mixed messages because before we came on stage, you told me we were Oprah and Gail.
We are Oprah and Gail.
And now we're James Lipton and
and
someone
Gwyneth
else.
Paltrow.
And, Gwyneth
No,
Paltrow.
you're Brad. No, whoever you
I
want.
can't do Gwyneth. It's too
Okay,
goopy.
you are gonna.
Okay.
We gotta
Okay. Well, the
pause
question is
this
my favorite
once.
word. My favorite word.
Yeah,
okay.
favorite word.
My kids are going to be horrified by this, but I really like the F word. And here is why. Here is why. It's because it is so powerful that it made you gasp. That it
Right.
has power when you use it, and it could be. It's sort of manipulative. Sometimes I'll go to high schools and talk to teenagers, and I'll just drop an F-bomb, just slightly, and all of a sudden they love me and they think I'm cool.
Oh, yeah.
So it's really it's
'Cause you're speaking the truth.
because
Yeah.
I'm cool and
Yeah.
I can curse. And so especially because I'm in a middle-aged mom thing, so it's nice to have something.
It's a good
to-
cover, Julie. It's a good
Yeah.
cover. We know.
It only gets you so far, but yes,
Yeah.
I'd say the F word because it's powerful. I like powerful.
And the F word
words.
is funny, right?
Oh,
That's-
totally.
Okay,
It's
that's
totally
what I thought.
funny.
So see, it's all good.
Sorry, babes. You're not allowed to use it yet.
No. Julie, I won't do this on all 10. What is your least favorite word?
Oh. I'm not good at no. I mean, I
Oh.
think it's a great word. It's also a powerful word, but I am not good at using it. And it makes me very uncomfortable to say it. And I wish I was more comfortable with it. It's sort of like I want to say pass.
Yeah.
Same thing. Like I haven't. Are you taking notes for my therapist? Because I feel like
This is
that's
also on a
something
podcast,
else.
so,
Yeah. Oh,
yeah.
Sugar. Okay. No, I'd say the word is no.
Okay, no is great. And Pat, you maybe work on pass. That's
Pass.
good. Okay. We're going to say this in a literary frame. What turns you on?
The perfect sentence.
Okay.
I really like a really beautifully written sentence, whether it's written by me or someone else.
And does it end with an exclamation point, a question mark, a
I
period?
hate exclamation points
Oh,
generally.
oh
Yeah.
no! You must hate my text.
Oh no! In text, actually, in texts and emails, if you don't put exclamation points, I'm convinced you hate me.
That's
So I think it's very important that you use exclamation points in texts and messages, and multiple emojis. But in
Yeah.
terms of like in actual literary writing, I hate an exclamation point on the page. But
That's good.
it's funny. Dreyer's English. There's
Yeah,
this
of
book,
course.
Dreyer's English, which is written by the copy chief of Random House, and it's hilarious and really fun. And I know that is probably the dorkiest sentence I've ever said. That a book about copy editing is really fun, but I swear it's awesome. And in it, he talks about how much he hates exclamation points. So I tweeted at him recently about whether he felt it was okay to use exclamation points in text messages in novels, because I do use exclamation points there. And he agreed with me that was the one exception where it's okay.
Oh, I'm glad that he responded
And
to
that
you,
is
too.
my dorkiest story.
I don't know. I think to, grammar and literary nerds, they would be,
Like, you get it, right?
taking
Like,
you out for drinks. Yeah, that's a pretty amazing response.
Yeah. Within seconds, he responded, which was awesome.
Well, he was not busy then. I always if somebody tweets right away or likes it right away, I'm like, they're bored, which is okay.
They
It's
need a
fine.
hobby other than Twitter.
So do I, so I can't say anything. In literary-wise, we're going to ask the opposite question. What turns you off? I guess
Exclamation points.
wait, did we say that? Did I say what turns you on? Oh, yeah. Okay.
Wait,
I am
I
listening.
can think of something else. You know what? I really don't like dumb characters in general.
Oh, I agree.
I feel like when you use lack of an intelligence as a motivation for a character, I find it really frustrating.
There's
And I
one
hate
dumb
manipulation.
character.
I hate emotional manipulation. That's
Where
the other
they
thing.
act like they're dumb, but they're really
Or
smart.
I hate that, but I also hate sentimentality. If they kill the kid on the first page, so you're crying and you think it's good because you're crying, but it's not good. They just kill the kid. And
Right.
of course you're gonna
Just to
cry.
get it out of the way.
Yeah, that pisses
No
me
offense,
off.
kids. That's
No,
not going to happen.
Yes, no, of
Yeah.
course not.
What sound or noise do you love besides me clearing my throat? on
My
here?
kids' laughter. They have really great
Aw.
laughs.
Good job, guys.
And my husband, he's going to be so mad that I did this, but he laughs in his sleep, which is a detail I gave to the main character's boyfriend in my very first novel, and it's still one of my favorite sounds.
Is it because you're having good dreams, or you just
I think he's just not a neurotic Jew like me.
so jealous? So jealous. What sound or noise do you hate?
I don't like noise in general. I'm kind of an old lady about it. One issue in my marriage is my husband likes to play music really, really loud. And
Hey, I have one of
hate
those.
it.
I don't hate it, but yeah.
I find it upsetting. It stirs me up in an unpleasant way, and I really, really, truly despise it. And he doesn't understand that at all.
Oh. Welcome to therapy at Skylight Books. I love when we all learn something new about each other, especially long-term
We're very
spouses.
happy, I swear.
Yeah.
Just as one thing.
Well, you've already answered this one, but what is your favorite curse word? But I think we know what it is with
Yeah,
the F.
I like the F word a
Yeah,
lot.
it's useful.
It is really, I really do.
Yeah.
It's, yeah.
Back up on that one. What profession other than your own would you like to attempt?
Ooh, I was a lawyer becoming a writer, so definitely not that. Maybe therapist?
Julie.
I don't know.
I mean,
Clearly
yes,
I'm not meant for
and
that.
I mean that's good. Yeah. I mean, you're not saying you're
just
doing
beyond
it.
my
You're just
dreams,
saying,
Kayla.
Yeah, no. I didn't do the yes and. Oh my gosh, yes and. That's great. Yeah, sorry.
I don't think I'm fit for much. I'm not there aren't that many things that I'm that good at that I don't know what else I could do. I do think I am good at seeing I think I'd be a great editor. I think I'm good at seeing what's wrong with other people's writing. I'm very nasty when I read other people's work. I think I don't think I'd be good at packaging it nicely to people, which is why I couldn't be an editor.
Right.
But I think I can say, this is why this sucks. I think I'm really good at that.
That's really useful. I
It
mean,
is
you
useful,
could
right?
actually, yeah,
It's
that's
secret,
a good
it's one
side
of my
hustle.
secret superpowers. That, and also I could run a bookstore. I'm really good at finding the perfect book that you need to read.
Ooh. All right, that's good to know.
Yeah. I don't know if I can do it in front of a crowd.
No, well, no pressure. Just call on someone. What do you want? What profession would you not, not like to do? And I guess it's law.
Law. No, I mean, there's some parts of the law that aren't terrible. That I probably, if I had stayed in the law longer, I would have found and loved. I would make a terrible teacher, and especially with little kids.
Yeah.
I've been to my son's kindergarten classroom and volunteered for an hour, and I was very happy at the end to walk out.
Did they ask you to leave?
They did not ask me to leave, but I'm not good. Again, I'm not good with noise and stimulation. It's too much stimulation. I get overstimulated very easily, and so it was too much stimulation.
And this question, this is an odd question, but it's old-fashioned. And remember, James Lipton, 80s or 90s. So we're going to go with it, but kind of pick your alternative of whatever you need. If heaven exists, or wherever, what would you like to hear God say when you arrive at the pearly gates? Or, gates that aren't pearly. Yeah, that was the alternative. And pearls aren't in right now, so actually they are, but...
Oh my God, this is so hard.
Right? Do you want me to read it again?
My daughter's whispering, say pass. I feel like there must be something super clever to say. One of my favorite movies is Defending Your Life.
Oh, yeah.
Have you seen that?
Yeah, a long time
And
ago.
one of the details of heaven is that you can eat whatever you want and not gain any weight, which always appealed to me. But I feel like I can come up with a much better answer to that because it's ridiculous. I'm thinking about something with hot men, but my kids are in the front row. Pass.
All right. Pass it. Oh, I mean, that would be a great response. You show up at the pearly gates and you're like, pass. Like, this is not for me. But thanks anyway, guys. So with all of that, and with me bugging Julie for the last half hour or whatever it was, I would love if anyone has any cues they would like her to A. She will do a question and answer with you. And yeah.
So we're gonna, any questions?
Any questions?
Lily, you have a question. Of course you can hug me, sweet pea.
Okay, I don't want to say like maybe. No. I feel like she was a plant.
Someone must.
Amina.
What are you most proud of with what you did with this work?
If this book gets into the hands that I want it to get into, I'll be really proud if I can teach kids about 9/11. I think I really truly believe it's important for them to understand what happened and that it's still happening and that people are still dying, and that we need to fund healthcare. And I'd like it bumped up the priority list of things we're fighting about and fighting for. And so if there was a way for this book to trickle into schools, which is what I'm hoping will happen, that would be really satisfying.
I always think that like every book that you write sort of changes you because you're writing about real things and the challenging aspects of writing in general. So how did this book change?
It's a really good question. I always feel like after I write a book, it occurs to me why I wrote that particular book. By the way, this is Carrie, who wrote a beautiful book called The First Time She Drowned. It's a YA novel, and it's gorgeous. Anyhow, I feel like every book, there's a reason. Like my second book, After You, is about a woman who moves to London after her best friend is murdered, and she literally steps into the life of her best friend. And it's about how well do we know the people we love. Wrote the book, had no idea why I wanted to think about that question. Years later, it occurred to me, I wrote that book when my husband proposed to me. And when he proposed to me, even though we had dated for like 8 years and had lived together for 7 of them, I freaked out about how well we actually knew each other. I'd call him up and be like, what'd you eat for lunch? Who was your second grade teacher? What is your favorite color? I need to know things. And so sometimes only later do I understand why I wrote a book. With What to Say Next, there's 2 characters who connect at a lunch table. Indy and I met at a lunch table, and I didn't notice that until I was on a panel 2 years after the book was out. So I have no idea why I wrote this book, and I also have no doubt that in a year that answer will be very clear to me.
That's a good question.
A lot of these books have multiple POV characters. What is appealing to you about multiple perspectives?
I hate writing multiple perspectives, and I keep doing it, and I don't know why. The current book I'm writing is only one perspective, but it's 2 time periods, which also, why am I writing is really, really hard. Why would I make it harder for myself? This book originally, I tried really hard not to do 2 perspectives. It was originally one perspective, and then the other side of the story was told through emails and notes and newspaper articles, and I was trying to be really clever, and it just didn't work. The character needed a voice. And once I nailed his voice, that made the book infinitely better, but I tried really, really hard not to have to do it. really, like really, really, really hard. And it didn't work.
The next question that's asked gets a surprise.
Yes.
Not from.
We,
Yeah. I'm
sounds
just saying
kind
the
of
creepy.
dirty.
Yeah, no,
we have
no.
prizes. Let's
We have
just
our
say we have prizes.
Yeah, you get a surprise, but the rule is it can't be someone who already knows Julie.
Ooh,
No, which
that's
is not
how-
saying that anyone who asked does, but except for you know her because you're the daughter.
Oh, I feel like that's so hard.
I know.
Yes.
Can I repeat that question for
Yeah.
everyone? The question was, how did you know you were an author? How did you decide to pursue it?
I didn't know I was an author. So I was a lawyer, and as part of a New Year's resolution, I quit my job. This was about 12 years ago to write my first book. And the idea wasn't to become an author. The idea was to write a book. It was something on my bucket list that I wanted to do before I died. And I just felt like this was the time to do it while I figured out what kind of lawyer I wanted to be. I didn't. I had an idea. I had taken a workshop at UCLA to sort of form an idea. And then I ended up taking classes at UCLA while I wrote my first book. And my teacher is here. And some people from that class are here, which is amazing. Hi. So that helped. But when I sat down to write, it was like January 2nd. And by, I'd say, January 10th, it occurred to me, I was like, this is what I want to do with my life. And then I didn't know if I actually could do it for my life, but it felt natural and organic in a way nothing had ever done for me before. And then I got super lucky. And so then I actually turned from a writer to an author. And I don't think there's a huge difference between being an author and a writer, except for the fact that you have a book deal. So you're no different a writer before and after. And that's just a matter of a lot of luck and perseverance. And I got super lucky, like ridiculously lucky. And so that's how I transitioned to actually being an author. But the moment of turning into a writer was when I quit my job and just tried this thing. And I didn't study English in college. I was a political science, philosophy, economics major. So it was sort of this really weird thing I decided to do. And everyone was sort of like, you're going to write a book? Like, what? And yeah, and I had a really great job that I quit. My dad was a little bit freaked out, I think, but it worked out.
And we will give you your prize, and also we can take a picture of you two together with the prize afterwards, if it's okay. All right.
Okay. I think we have 2 more prizes we need to give out. So 2 more
Yeah.
questions, and then I can know you. I don't have to not know you for these.
You can even really like Julie. Yeah.
It did. That was the book, which is ridiculous. I mean, it's a totally ridiculous story, and sometimes I hesitate to tell it because it makes it sound too easy, and it's obnoxious, and it is obnoxiously easy. For the record, I've had some really hard years since then, and major rejection, and books that I spent 2 years of my life that live in a drawer. After my daughter was born, I wrote a book that is still under contract with Random House, actually, and it just wasn't good enough. Like I worked on it, and I just felt like it was competent, but it was not the sort of book you'd be like, you have to read this. And I was at a stage in my career where it didn't make sense to ever put out a book that was going to, tank my audience, right? I mean, you're never at a stage where it makes sense to put out that book, but I was particularly not at a stage when I should put out that book. So I have had the tough moments, but my beginning was sort of a ridiculous stars aligning in a magical way that doesn't happen. And actually, when people say to me, should I quit my job to write a book? And I'm like, no. Like, that's the stupidest thing I ever did. It just turned out to be the best thing.
What year was that, or around?
Do you know?
I mean,
06, 07.
Okay. Not as like, what's your cred? I'm just like curious.
06,
Like,
07, so it's been 12 years.
do one more question?
Yeah.
Hi, Angela.
is the question, how do you take something you've written and get it published? Or is the question, like, how do you get started writing on the project that you should be working on as a writer? Okay.
But maybe someday they might be published. Who knows? But how did you motivate yourself? Because I clearly did not plan on doing this.
Yeah, I had always wanted to write a book. And so I set out to write a novel, and I took novel writing courses for that express purpose. But maybe what you want to write is memoir or a personal essay, or, I mean, there's a million categories of writing. Whatever it is you do want to write, I would read the crap out of it and read everything out there that does it and does it well, and also does it not so well, and look at why it's not doing, why it works and why it doesn't. I think reading widely in what you're doing is really important. I think there comes a point when you have to stop reading in what you're doing. Like right now, I'm not reading any YA, purely because I'm in the drafting process. But as you're gearing up to become a writer, I think it's super, super important because you learn the pitfalls, you learn the expectations, and if you're gonna subvert the expectations, you want to do it intentionally, not accidentally. Do you have any other advice, Kayla?
I would add on to that, whether it's fiction or nonfiction or about noodles, which Angela has great taste in food. I think that sometimes that we get the idea of we want to write a book or we want to write a play or a movie or whatever, but we don't have the story. So why then? Why put yourself through it? Like, wait until you have the story, because once you have the story, then, not saying you have to wait forever to have an idea, but like if something calls you as a story or something you want to explore or something that you have to dissect, you might have your story right there. But kind of being nebulous, because it is a long process. Sometimes I say it's hard. Sometimes I say it's just a long process, and it's like being a marathon runner when you don't know how to run, and you just you keep going. But if that story is bugging you and you can't get it out of your mind, you keep going on it. And so maybe it's like writing around what you are writing right now, and then maybe seeing if a story jumps out at you. Because sometimes that can. Oh, yeah,
I live down the block. You can come over too.
Oh, yeah.
I would add two quick things to that. I think sometimes at least for me, I get a physical feeling when I'm onto the right idea, right? I literally get a chill where I'm like this. I can feel it in my body that this is the right. Well, that's it. That's the magic. And I also would add that it's awesome that you're writing just to write, because that's the best part of the process. It's really fun to be here and to talk, but the part that I love about what I do is the time I'm alone in a room with my laptop and I'm struggling with a sentence. That's where it's fun. That's the true joy. This scares the shit out of me, the crap out of me.
She did say backstage, I'm not outing you at all, but she said, people came. I was like,
came.
Yeah,
thanks, guys.
yeah, people are going to show up. This is the scary part.
It's so scary.
Yeah.
Are we
You did
done
the
yet?
hard part. I think we're done. Does anyone have one last question or anything? Because if not, there are wine, there are cookies, there's water.
And the people who won prizes, we have prizes. We have
Yes,
Kayla's
come on.
books, my
And Julie's
books,
books.
and a Night's Day Camp hat.
Yeah, the hat's really cute. You should do a model.
And for when we do the signing, I do have magnetic picture frames to give out for the first 10 people who I do not know. I've never had a meal. If it's someone I haven't had a meal or a drink with, you get a picture frame.
But before we wrap up, I love to do this because it always makes me really happy. Can I take a group photo of all of you? You don't have to squeeze in, but if you want to squeeze in, squeeze in.
You're like my
Can you
social media manager.
I'm
I love
very
you.
good at this. No, but can you stand right in front?
sure.
Okay.
And if you have a book,
Yeah, if you have Julie's newest book or any of her books with you for signature, please. Do y'all want to get in the picture? Do you want to come get in the picture? Okay, you don't have to. No pressure. Anybody who doesn't want to be in the picture doesn't have to.
Do you want me to take it?
Oh, sure. Okay. I think.
Actually, I'm going to get up on the stairs really quick.
Okay, perfect. Oh, thank you.
Oh, you're beautiful. Everyone looks absolutely amazing. Squeeze it. There we go. Okay.
Thank you all for coming. Thank you, Skylight Books. Skylight, we love you.
You've been listening to the Skylight Books author reading series. Don't forget, you can listen to this and all of our other great podcasts at skylightbooks.com. Thanks again for stopping by, and we hope to see you soon.